Over 1,000 years ago, Ishiki Otsutsuki arrived on Earth to cultivate a chakra fruit from the god tree. However, his plans were thwarted when he was betrayed and gravely injured by his subordinate partner, Kaguya. Clinging to life, Ishiki parasitically invaded Jigen, a wandering monk who happened to be nearby, using him as a host to survive. After losing Kaguya, Ishiki devised a new plan: to feed himself to the 10 tails and bloom the god tree. However, due to his critically damaged body and Jigen's incompatibility as a vessel for the Kama, this would result in a subpar chakra fruit. To ensure his survival and produce a superior fruit, Ishiki sought a new vessel. He purchased 15 orphan children for experiments, aiming to find a host capable of enduring the Kama and living a full lifespan. Among them, Boruto proved to be the sole success. Through Jigen, Ishiki founded the secretive organization Kara, positioning himself as its leader. Kara recruited a group of elite operatives known as the Inners, promising to fulfill their deepest desires in exchange for their service. To bolster their abilities, the organization's chief scientist, equipped every member with advanced shinobi wear and even implanted cells from Shibai Otsutsuki, granting them access to shinjutsu abilities. The investment into Boruto's development was immense. Kara faced mounting pressure as both Boruto's preparation and the god tree's cultivation demanded significant time. Of the 14 children who failed, only Code survived, inheriting a white Kama, a variant incapable of resurrecting Ishiki but granting Code immense power. Code's unwavering loyalty earned him a place among the Inners as Ishiki's most devoted follower. When Kawaki Uzumaki became the vessel for Momoshiki Otsutsuki, the urgency of Kara's plans eased significantly. Kawaki's strong and healthy body, combined with his compatibility with the Kama, made him an ideal candidate to feed to the 10 tails. Using Kawaki as a sacrifice would yield a far more potent chakra fruit than Ishiki's original plans with his damaged vessel, Jigen. Kawaki's interactions with Boruto accelerated the decompression of both their Kama marks due to their resonance. However, within Kara, I harbored my own motives. My true objective was the eradication of the Otsutsuki clan. To that end, I created Kashinkoji, a clone of the legendary shinobi Jiraiya, to aid in my secret rebellion against Kara, orchestrating Boruto's escape and forcing Ishiki to prematurely resurrect through Jigen's body. This tactic ensured that Ishiki's lifespan would be drastically shortened, preventing him from fully rebranding Boruto with a new Kama. During his tenure in Kara, I developed several cyborgs designed to surpass Jigen in strength, intending for them to kill Ishiki. However, Jigen ordered these cyborgs to be disposed of to prevent any threat to his leadership. Among these cyborgs, Code was spared due to his unwavering loyalty to Ishiki. One such cyborg, Ada, was gifted with the power to captivate others, a shinjutsu ability that rendered even the loyal inner Boro unable to resist her. Instead of disposing of Ada and her brother Daemon, as instructed, they were secretly hidden in one of Kara's bases. Although Ishiki ultimately died before he could reapply the Kama onto Boruto, the extracted data of the mark remained dormant within Boruto's body. This left the door open for further manipulation. Momoshiki, in turn, sought to reverse Kara's plans, intending to offer Boruto as the 10 tails sacrifice instead. This would allow Momoshiki to cultivate a chakra fruit for himself, solidifying his role in the ongoing conflict. I assume this is the information you're seeking from me.
So this is where you've been hiding. Or maybe it's more accurate to say, this is where your hints led me to find you?
You are cautious one, I see, sending a shadow clone instead of showing up in person. With your abilities, I'm sure you already know I don't mean you any harm. I'm just here to gather some information about the events unfolding in this world.
Gathering information, are we? Guess you thought I'd be easier to approach this way. But if you've come all this way, I'll bite. What is it you want to know about what's happening out there?
With Ada's Senrigan, Boruto and Kawaki's roles were swapped. Sasuke, convinced by his daughter's awakening, decided to trust her and save Boruto from a doomed fate, helping him escape the village with his head held high.
More like his head still attached to his head.
I was trying to be reasonable, but in the end, Ada let them escape, feeling it was her responsibility.
When Sasuke left the Hidden Leaf Village with Boruto, the training they embarked on was both intense and critical for Boruto's survival. The training had a heavy emphasis on discipline, physical endurance, and mental resilience, as Sasuke understood the weight of the responsibility Boruto carried. Sasuke taught Boruto how to wield and master specific techniques, such as the sword and lightning-based jutsus. Through this training, Boruto not only became physically stronger, but also learned to channel his willpower and determination, developing a more profound understanding of his own powers and the responsibilities of being a shinobi. Sasuke likely shared knowledge of his own journey as a shinobi, his battle tact, and his understanding of threats like the Otsutsuki, helping Boruto develop a clearer vision of the challenges he would face. A year later, Code finally managed to ambush Boruto and Sasuke, catching them off guard. This time, he had the upper hand, determined not to let them slip away as they had before. In the chaotic struggle, Code lost an eye, which only fueled his rage. With the situation worsening, Sasuke urged Boruto to escape, telling him to leave and perfect the skills he'd taught him. Sasuke assured him that once he had, there would be no one who could stand as his equal. Fighting against his desire to stay, Boruto did as Sasuke instructed and fled. Later, he returned to find a scene of absolute devastation. Bodies lay scattered across the battlefield, a massacre reminiscent of the Fourth Great Ninja War and the terrifying tales of Uchiha Madara's power. Boruto's eyes fell on a large, gnarled tree that held his master Sasuke sealed within its bark. Clenching his fist, Boruto reminded himself of his shinobi's code, to endure and to never go back on his ninja way. He took up Sasuke's sword, vowing to not only reach the summit of the shinobi world, but to surpass it. With resolve burning within him, he promised to honor Sasuke's legacy and forge a path that would bring him beyond anything the shinobi world had ever known.
If Naruto was the child of prophecy, then what does that make his son? So much weight has been placed on his shoulders, it's no shock if he cracks under the pressure.
And every generation has its own battles to fight. The threat they're facing now isn't something new, it's always been lurking in the shadows. His ancestors started preparing for this long ago.
Perhaps it was fate that her bloodline would come together again, giving rise to two offspring with more potential than any shinobi before them.
Boruto was out there alone, without Sasuke's guidance, trying to stay a step ahead of a Stone Village Anbu team hot on his trail. They'd cut off every possible escape, cornering him in a way that had him scrambling, looking for any break. It was clear he was running out of options, and that's when I reached out. I used a toad to communicate with him, told him the truth. He wasn't getting out on his own. Capture was inevitable unless he did as I said. Naturally, he hesitated, but with the Anbu closing in, he placed his hand on the toad, and I pulled him straight to my hidden sanctuary, camouflaged by genjutsu, a place even Konoha's finest couldn't see. Once he'd caught his breath, I laid out the truth about what's been happening in Konoha. Thanks to the Otsutsuki cells within me, I possess a foresight ability I call the 10 Directions, which lets me see into possible futures. I explained how I had anticipated the memory-warping jutsu that erased him from everyone's memories, twisting the village's mind into seeing him as an enemy. That's why I still remember who he really is. Boruto listened, and I could see the weight of it all settling on him. I told him about the futures I'd seen, where Naruto dies using Baryon mode, Kawaki becomes Ishiki's vessel, and the Ten Tails evolves into hundreds of beasts. The worst of these is a creature called Jura, a Shinju capable of killing him in multiple futures. He had a fire in his eyes after hearing all this, so I offered to train him, not just with the skills he already has, but with techniques I've seen him master in other timelines. I even hinted that there might be a way to save Sasuke. Boruto didn't need much convincing. He's ready to grow stronger, to protect those he cares about, and to face these dark possibilities head-on. 3 years after Boruto and Sasuke left the village, Sarada goes to Shikamaru, now the 8th Hokage, to defend Boruto. Shikamaru, though, is unmoved. He believes Boruto crossed the line, with Ada's Senrigan-backed testimony supporting it. Even if Shikamaru rescinded the kill orders, he knows the villagers would still hate Boruto for allegedly killing Naruto. Frustrated, Sarada argues back, but Shikamaru warns her that her defiance could hurt her shinobi career. She retorts that Naruto, her real role model, became Hokage while still a genin. Elsewhere, Kawaki checks on the imprisoned Naruto and Hinata. Meanwhile, Mitsuki trails Kawaki, irritated by Mitsuki's belief that Boruto wants to kill him. Mitsuki is sure Boruto can hide his chakra signature, but Kawaki tells him to stop following him like a stalker. When Kawaki hears about a claw mark sighting, he leaves, and Mitsuki mutters that Kawaki is his son, right?
Even after 3 years, he's still an ass. You'd think his recent actions would make people question their memories. No one changes that drastically, that fast. No matter how strong this genjutsu is, there have to be some who are starting to doubt the reality in front of them.
In many timelines, you'd be right, but in this one, it's all being played by ear. At the training grounds, Himawari spars with Chōchō Akamichi. Chōchō counters with a powerful fist that Himawari dodges gracefully, sending throwing stars in retaliation. Chōchō expands her body partially, creating a gust of air, moving out of the trajectory of the throwing stars, then surprises Himawari by launching upward and grabbing her, ending the match. Himawari has clearly grown stronger. She admits her strength isn't for pride. She wants to help Boruto, convinced he'd never kill her father and that her father is still alive. Kawaki, meanwhile, shrinks the newly found claw mark, but notices a suspicious one on a shinobi's neck, which he removes, realizing Code's plan may involve planting these marks around the village. Kawaki speaks to Shikamaru on his discovery that Code's claw marks could be on many of the shinobi and citizens of the village, so everyone would need to be screened. Suddenly, Code's claw grimes spawn and attack. Shikamaru orders an evacuation as Sarada and Kawaki jump into battle. Then, Code himself appears, confronting Sarada and claiming he's after Boruto. Sarada tells him Boruto left years ago, but Code reveals he's trying to draw Boruto out by attacking his friends. At that moment, Boruto seemingly arrives, stepping on Code's face and taunting him. Kawaki and the village censors immediately sense his presence, alerting Shikamaru, with Kawaki shocked by Boruto's sudden return. Code is stunned by Boruto's sudden reappearance and regrets not attacking Konoha sooner. Boruto confronts him, demanding he withdraw the claw grind, which Code scoffs at, thinking it's a bluff. He remembers Boruto fleeing 2 years ago, but Boruto's resolute glare shows he means business this time, promising Code he'll lose more than just his left eye. Boruto turns to Sarada, asking her to help the civilians, assuring her they'll talk afterward. Meanwhile, Shikadai paralyzes 3 grimes, giving Chōchō an opening to strike. As another grime attacks her from behind, Inojin arrives on an ink bird with Himawari, blocking it just in time. The grime slashes the bird's left wing, causing it to tilt and send Himawari tumbling. The grime lunges at her, but Kawaki swoops in, warning Inojin and Himawari to get clear as he strikes. Inojin catches Himawari just in time, while the grime, now on the ground, opens a Rinnegan and takes a keen interest in Kawaki. Himawari thanks Kawaki, who irritably reminds her to stop calling him Big Brother. The grime seems stronger than the others, jumping between allies before slamming Kawaki to the ground and calling him an Otsutsuki, while Shikadai paralyzes it again to keep it contained. Enraged, Kawaki activates his Kama and blasts it, but as more grimes converge, Kawaki stands his ground, ready to destroy them all. Meanwhile, Boruto, surrounded by claw grimes as Code grins, sensing victory is finally within reach. He sneers at Boruto, who stands calm and unshaken, his gaze focused. Confident in his upper hand, Code raises his hand, commanding the claw grime to attack, sending a wave of them surging forward, each one moving with fierce intent to overpower and consume their target. But Boruto effortlessly cuts down 6 grimes around him, leaving Code more on edge, starting to believe Boruto might be serious. Code dismisses the grimes as mere tools, unaffected by their numbers. But Boruto counters, warning that Code has no idea of the horrors that lie within the Ten Tails. Sarada skillfully takes down more grimes with her fire release, great fireball technique, and Chidori, drawing admiration from the Konoha shinobi who marvel at her strength despite her Genin rank. She, however, is ambushed by a grime attempting to bite her, only for Soegi to intercept it and get bitten instead. To Sarada's horror, the grime transforms into a tree, consuming Soegi, with the same fate befalling another shinobi who was bitten. Code is well aware that the Ten Tails instinctively seeks to bite until it consumes an Otsutsuki, aiming to grow into a god tree. Boruto warns Code that his meddling has made these creatures more dangerous, urging him to stop them before they spiral out of control. Code is unfazed, still focused on his ultimate goal, to create a chakra fruit. Boruto, undeterred, makes a final offer. He'll spare Code if he reveals the Ten Tails' main body location, asserting that he'd rather give Code a chance to avoid a pointless death. Code, seeing Boruto's confidence as madness, as Boruto readies his Rasengan, Code recognizes the technique, dismissing him as a one-trick pony. But then, the swirling chakra envelops Boruto's entire body rather than just his hand, signaling that he's no longer using the same Rasengan Code remembers. Code initially thinks Boruto's new Rasengan might be a vanishing Rasengan, but quickly dismisses the idea. Using his claw marks, he tries to ambush Boruto from behind, but Boruto dodges. Code grabs Boruto's wrist, only for Boruto to block his other hand with his sword. Smirking, Code assumes Boruto can't land a hit, but Boruto calmly reveals that his technique is already working. Suddenly, a swirling energy begins to engulf Code. Boruto demands to know the Ten Tails location, warning Code that his time is running out. Code tries to attack again, but misses every time, bewildered by Boruto's uncanny movements. He considers the possibility of clones or genjutsu, but nothing seems to explain what's happening. Boruto strikes him with his new Rasengan Uzuhiko.
Whoa, what the heck was that?
That's the Rasengan Uzumiko. It's not just a high-level jutsu, it's devastating on every level. It doesn't just rely on chakra, it uses the planet's rotation as its power source.
The planet's rotation? How does it even do that?
The user syncs the jutsu's outer layer with the planet's spin, channeling that energy into the Rasengan. But here's the real kicker. It doesn't just hit the target, it severs their connection to the planet's rotation.
Wait, what does that even mean? What happens if you lose that connection?
Losing that connection is catastrophic. The planet's spin is tied to everything: your balance, your internal chakra flow, even your ability to move properly. Without it, your body starts breaking down internally. It's like being trapped in a world that doesn't recognize you anymore.
So, they're basically left paralyzed and crumbling from the inside out?
Pretty much. And the worst part? There's no way to restore that connection once it's gone. It's permanent. Unless
what? Is there a way to stop it?
there are only two ways. Either the user cancels the jutsu themselves, or the planet's spin is forcibly stopped to interrupt the connection.
Stopping the planet? That's ridiculous. Who could even do that?
Exactly. It's why the Rasengan Uzumiko is considered almost unstoppable once it's unleashed. It's a guaranteed kill unless someone insanely powerful intervenes. Dazed, Code struggles to stand, his vision spinning uncontrollably. Boruto explains that his jutsu channels the rotation of the planet itself, causing damage as long as the world keeps turning. He offers to lift the effects if Code leads him to the Ten Tails. At that moment, Kawaki and Team 10 arrive with Himawari. Shikadai questions Boruto's intentions, but Boruto urges him not to interrupt. Code seizes the moment to escape, but Kawaki quickly shrinks his claw marks, cutting off his path. Shikamaru requests an update, and Kawaki reports that he's eliminated the remaining claw marks, meaning Code is trapped and weakened. Taking the chance, Code calls forth a claw grime from the mark on his face. Kawaki, noticing the claw grime moving into striking range, springs into action with precision. His transformed arm morphs seamlessly, thrusting through the grime's chest in one swift, brutal motion. Code, seizing this moment of distraction, darts forward with deadly intent on getting away, and vanishes through it. Shikamaru gives the order to eradicate all claw grimes. Meanwhile, Sarada and another shinobi examine the tree that envelops Soegi, confirming that he's alive but trapped within what they suspect is a defective god tree. Kawaki taunts Boruto for his Uchiha-style outfit, while Boruto expresses relief at seeing Himawari safe. Kawaki suspects Boruto returned only to meet his end, though Boruto insists he still has unfinished business. A concealed toad hidden in Boruto's collar sends a signal, alerting him that Code has returned to his base. Code stumbles past a tree with Bug, reaching the pen where an emaciated Ten Tails awaits. Another toad, Boruto planted on Code, relays the Ten Tails location back to Boruto. Code dismisses Boruto's earlier warnings about the claw grime, reasoning that their only instinct is to devour and nothing more. Meanwhile, the small toad perched on Boruto's shoulder urgently advises him to act quickly. Boruto replies with a wry smile, admitting he's not as proficient as his grandfather. Kawaki observes Boruto muttering, but remains unaware of the toad's presence, his suspicion growing. Without warning, Boruto vanishes using the Flying Thunder God technique, instantly appearing near Code. The sudden move catches Code off guard, his shock evident as Boruto strides toward the pen where the Ten Tails was kept. To Boruto's surprise, the massive creature has disappeared. The toad on Code is equally bewildered, considering Code too drained to have orchestrated its removal. Then nearby, Boruto spots an eerie claw grime tree, its shape grotesque and ominous. A humanoid grime, who Code briefly mistakes for Bug, emerges. Boruto calmly corrects him, explaining that what stands before them is no ordinary grime, but a nascent god tree. The tree-like being lunges at Boruto, calling him an Otsutsuki, and mocking him for arriving as if to offer himself as sustenance. Boruto retaliates with lightning release, the crackling energy forcing the tree to momentarily retreat. Its arm mutates into a gaping maw, snapping hungrily at him. With a quick use of Flying Thunder God, Boruto teleports back to Code's side. Code stumbles, demanding an explanation for what's unfolding. Boruto rescinds the lingering effects of his Rasengan, Uzuhiko, granting Code a brief reprieve. Boruto then explains grimly that all those transformed into trees have effectively become god trees, altered by Code's reckless actions. As if to confirm Boruto's words, another god tree appears, its massive form hovering ominously above. This tree, seemingly sentient, addresses Code, deriding him for meddling with forces beyond his comprehension and allowing them to achieve self-awareness. A second god tree, resembling a harlequin, materializes and chastises Code further, accusing him of being perpetually used as a pawn. The toad advises Boruto to retreat, but he hesitates, scanning his surroundings. From the corner of his eye, Boruto spots yet another god tree approaching, its malevolent intent palpable. Back in Konoha, Kawaki delivers a detailed report to Shikamaru, recounting his observations of Boruto's pursuit of Code. Kawaki raises suspicions of someone within the Konoha barrier team covertly aiding Boruto, though Shikamaru dismisses the notion, citing the thorough monitoring of communications. Sarada arrives mid-discussion, adamantly refuting Kawaki's theory. She argues that Boruto drove Code away and proposes confirming the events with Ada. Kawaki, however, remains unmoved. He reiterates his belief that Boruto, as an Otsutsuki, is a threat that must be eliminated regardless of his current actions. Sarada counters by pointing out Kawaki's own status as an Otsutsuki, emphasizing the hypocrisy of his stance. Kawaki coldly asserts his willingness to die after eradicating the Otsutsuki threat, while Sarada resolutely vows to stop him from harming Konoha's allies. Shikamaru intervenes to de-escalate, turning the focus back to the victims transformed into trees. Sarada confirms they are still alive, further deducing that Boruto possesses critical knowledge about their condition. She suggests that Konoha should ally with Boruto to confront Code, as their common enemy supersedes internal disputes. Meanwhile, Boruto faces an escalating threat, a Sasuke-like god tree attacks, its Chidori clashing violently with Boruto's Rasengan. As their jutsu collide, the bug god tree ensnares Boruto's sword, while the female tree immobilizes him with earth release. Struggling against their combined assault, Boruto appeals to Code's sense of self-preservation, warning him that the god trees will kill him as well. Code, however, coldly abandons Boruto, arguing that letting the god trees devour him serves his purposes perfectly. With no other choice, Boruto uses the Flying Thunder God technique to narrowly escape. The Flying God Tree, observing from above, remarks that Boruto is fortunate their emerging curiosity currently outweighs their primal hunger, but ominously predicts that he won't evade his fate for long. Exhausted, Boruto leans against a tree to recover. Koji Kashin appears, his disapproving voice cutting through the silence. He reprimands Boruto for his reckless actions, warning that carelessness will only make things worse. Boruto apologizes, glancing toward the horizon with a somber determination. He vows to free Sasuke, still trapped within the God Tree, but acknowledges it may take more time.
Okay, I have to ask, how the hell did Boruto learn the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? There's no one alive who should be able to teach him that technique.
This one's a bit tricky to answer, as it's not the true Flying Thunder God Jutsu created by the second Hokage and perfected by the fourth. Instead, it's a variation Boruto developed himself, leveraging the Otsutsuki clan's natural adaptability with space-time ninjutsu.
Alright, now you're sounding like Kobe Bryant in that Kanye West commercial.
I have no idea who those two are, but Boruto's future self took around 6 years to develop and refine through trial and error. Inspired by his grandfather, Boruto devised his own imitation of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. While it produces nearly identical results, Boruto's version is technically a separate technique with distinct limitations. Boruto's technique allows him to teleport to metal objects he's previously marked with his chakra, enabling instant movement to those locations. He specifically uses metal objects, such as weapons, accessories, and even utensils, because of their superior chakra conductivity. Teleportation is easier and more accurate when the objects are within his visual range. For long-distance jumps, however, the process becomes more challenging. If the objects share similar shapes, Boruto may struggle to distinguish between them. To overcome this, he prepared a variety of uniquely shaped metal items that serve as distinct markers he can visualize for accurate teleportation, even over great distances.
It's pretty interesting how he combined his Otsutsuki teleportation abilities with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu concept. The use of metal objects as markers makes a lot of sense, especially since metal conducts chakra well.
With only a rough grasp of how the jutsu functioned, he was able to replicate its complex mechanics in just a few minutes. He felt confident that, through his relentless efforts, this world would have a chance at a better future, even if it would take time to fully manifest. Konohamaru finds Team 10 by a tree that grew around Moegi, who was bitten while protecting a mother and child. Her students and Konohamaru vow to find a way to release her. Matsuri, sensing their sadness and rage, inform Jura, who finds it as proof of her individual awareness being stimulated, despite all of them being the same biological entity who wishes to consume Otsutsuki. Mamushi and Hidari discuss the origin of their feelings. Jura, oddly enough, wishes to devour Naruto, attributing the desire to eat a non-Otsutsuki to their differing evolution as god trees. Ada watches them as Jura instructs the others to listen to their inner desires to find personal targets. Matsuri determines Konohamaru is hers. Ada speculates that these god trees were created by the chakra of those eaten by the claw grimes. Bug's god tree perceives her watching them and declares her to be his target, startling her during her meal with Daemon. Sumire discusses Boruto's return with Amato. Recalling his objective, Sumire asks if his death doesn't run counter to restoring his daughter. Amato understands her question and points out how curious it is that no one knows who modified Kawaki's body. He recognizes his own work in Kawaki, as well as the comma containing Akibi's information. This physical evidence contradicts his memory of events, leading him to believe his memory was tampered with, as Kawaki is the one with Akibi's information in his karma, which should be Momoshiki. Watching the conversation, Sai asks Shikamaru's opinion on it. Elsewhere, Sumire informs Sarada of Amato's awareness of his memory being changed. Boruto approaches them, telling him Sasuke doubted his own memories to save him because of Sarada. She hugs him, telling him he's late and calling him an idiot. Boruto apologizes and says he's home. Shikamaru sits in a formal meeting with Koharu and Homura, who express their growing concerns over Boruto's return to Konoha. Homura begins by questioning Boruto's intentions, implying that his reappearance could destabilize the already fragile political standing of the village. Shikamaru admits he has no clear read on Boruto's motives, but emphasizes that Boruto's intervention was critical in driving Code back. Homura remains unconvinced, stating that Boruto should still be eliminated to restore Konoha's honor after the alleged attempt on Kawaki's life, and to appease the daimyo, whose approval is crucial for the village's funding. Koharu shifts the topic, urging Shikamaru to officially accept the title of Hokage permanently. She reminds him that 3 years have passed, his own suggested trial period. She argues that his hesitancy weakens his standing in the Land of Fire and diminishes Konoha's influence with other villages. Shikamaru deflects the suggestion, promising only to report back after further deliberation. Back in his office, Shikamaru discreetly requests Ino to personally deliver him old mission logs. As she exits, he establishes a secure telepathic connection with her, ensuring that no one, neither Ada, Amato, nor Kawaki, can listen in. Elsewhere, Ada informs Kawaki about the emergence of sentient god trees. Kawaki is puzzled, but remains confident in his ability to eliminate them. Damon, however, points out that if the god trees attacked, it could unravel Kawaki's narrative about Boruto. This, Damon warns, could lead others to question Kawaki's lies. Ada scolds Demon for his bluntness, but Kawaki ignores both, leaving without an explanation and daring Ada to spy on him if she wants to monitor his actions. Mitsuki, keeping a close watch on Kawaki and Ada, irritates Kawaki, who snaps that he should take his complaints to Shikamaru. Ada coolly responds, reminding Kawaki that it's Mitsuki's mission. Meanwhile, Sarada struggles with embarrassment. Sumire breaks the silence, engaging Boruto first. He expresses relief that both girls are safe and reveals that he's masking his chakra, buying himself a little time before Kawaki senses him. Boruto confesses grimly that Sasuke was absorbed by the Ten Tails during their last battle. Kawaki eventually senses Boruto's presence. Mitsuki, alert, prepares to intervene, summoning a snake. Boruto blames himself for Sasuke's fate, acknowledging that Sasuke sacrificed himself so Boruto could escape. Sumire asks why the Claw Grime are attacking those who aren't Otsutsuki. Boruto explains the life cycle of a Ten Tails, designed to evolve into a god tree only after consuming an Otsutsuki. He suspects the Grime's abnormal behavior stems from their hybrid nature, tied to Code's Kama, which carries remnants of Ishiki's chakra. Mitsuki reports Boruto's presence to Shikamaru, leading to the realization that Boruto can suppress his chakra signature, just like Kawaki. Mitsuki suggests using Ada to pinpoint Boruto's exact location, but Shikamaru shifts the focus to Kawaki's state. Mitsuki reveals that he subdued Kawaki with a snake bite. Boruto elaborates on his theory that the Claw Grime's connection to Code's Kama catalyzed the premature evolution of the god trees. He speculates that although Code isn't an Otsutsuki, his Kama carries enough Ishiki DNA to influence the Ten Tails. Shikamaru uses his telepathic link to reach Boruto, instructing him to act naturally. Boruto is startled and questions Shikamaru's motives. Shikamaru warns him of approaching company. Seconds later, Mitsuki attacks, restraining Boruto with his snakes. However, Sasuke's sword unsheathes itself, and Boruto uses it to teleport away, narrowly avoiding the strike. Sarada attempts to de-escalate the situation, but Mitsuki remains hostile, advancing with his Sage Mode-enhanced snakes. Boruto channels lightning release, purple electricity through Sasuke's sword, cutting through Mitsuki's ethereal constructs. Mitsuki launches an attack from below, but Boruto takes flight, evading him. Before retreating, Boruto promises Sarada that he'll rescue everyone who has been turned into trees, assuring her that he'll return. Frustrated, Boruto reaches out to Shikamaru telepathically, complaining that the situation could have been handled more discreetly. Shikamaru calmly counters, explaining that there are limits to what he can do without exposing himself. Shikamaru then poses a pointed question, asking Boruto directly if he truly is Boruto Uzumaki. He explains that information about Amato considering the possibility of fabricated memories has led him to reassess Boruto's and Kawaki's roles, flipping their perceived realities. Landing outside Kawaki's sensing range, but still within Ino's communication network, Boruto informs Shikamaru of a lingering loose end. He prepares for another confrontation, knowing he may need to fight Mitsuki again, this time without restraint. Mitsuki, with a cold resolve, he launches an attack with chakra snakes, deflecting Boruto's shuriken. Boruto avoids the assault, teleporting to one of the thrown shuriken using the Flying Thunder God technique. He questions why Kawaki hasn't given chase, suspecting something amiss. Mitsuki dismisses the question, stating that Kawaki is irrelevant since he's the one standing before Boruto. Shikamaru telepathically informs Boruto that Mitsuki incapacitated Kawaki, ensuring that Boruto wouldn't sense his approach. Mitsuki revealing his intentions: to fight Boruto alone, free from Kawaki's shadow, and to let loose. Mitsuki unleashes a barrage of snake clones, devastating the surrounding area with destructive precision. Boruto critiques the reckless damage, remarking that quantity doesn't equate to strength. Mitsuki responds coldly, insisting Boruto needs to die for being the source of all their problems. Boruto acknowledges his share of the blame, but declares he cannot die yet, not while he has unfinished business. Swiftly, Boruto dismantles the snake clones, demonstrating his superior speed and power. As Mitsuki transitions to lightning release, Boruto counters with his own, neutralizing the attack and closing the distance between them. With a flash of movement, Boruto places Sasuke's sword against Mitsuki's neck. Seeing no path forward, Mitsuki relinquishes his Sage Mode, daring Boruto to finish him. However, Boruto lowers his blade, explaining that Mitsuki's despair isn't resignation. It's the loss of hope and trust in what he once believed in. Mitsuki is visibly shaken. Boruto elaborates, pointing out that Kawaki no longer shines on him. Shikamaru, overhearing this, suggests to Ino that they extend their telepathic link to include Mitsuki. Ino refuses, concerned about compromising their private communication. Mitsuki accuses Boruto of being a traitor. In response, Boruto sheathes his sword and cryptically claims to know where Mitsuki's son is, stating that it's himself. The idea enrages Mitsuki, who ensnares Boruto with a snake and threatens to bite him. Yet Boruto remains calm, questioning why the snake hasn't attacked yet. Mitsuki, conflicted, begins to doubt his resolve. Boruto speculates that Mitsuki already realized Kawaki wasn't his son, as Kawaki's indifference leaves Mitsuki perpetually in the shadows. The weight of Boruto's words leaves Mitsuki distraught. Boruto reassures him, saying that Mitsuki doesn't need to depend on anyone to shine. He can illuminate his own path. Before leaving, Boruto reveals that Naruto and Hinata are alive. This revelation shocks Mitsuki, who asks why Boruto hasn't acted sooner. Boruto explains that Naruto's safety is tied to Kawaki's decisions, making a direct rescue futile for now. Turning away, Boruto offers a parting thought. If Mitsuki ever feels the need for a son, he's welcome to seek him out. The Ino is stunned to learn that Naruto is alive. Meanwhile, Shikamaru asks Boruto to speak privately to continue their conversation. At Ada and Demon's hideout, Kawaki wakes up and immediately asks about Mitsuki. Shikamaru summarizes the current situation, but Boruto cuts him off, advising against trying to understand omnipotence. He explains that the very concept fades from memory after it's heard, something he has repeatedly forgotten despite Sarada and Sumire reminding him. Still, Boruto commends Shikamaru for figuring it out on his own. When Shikamaru asks how to reverse omnipotence, Boruto reveals it's impossible and argues that doing so wouldn't solve his conflict with Boruto. He explains Kawaki's reasoning. Naruto was sealed away for his protection, meaning Kawaki himself would need a motive to undo it. If they rescued Naruto, Kawaki would likely just seal him away again. Shikamaru speculates that if he were in Boruto's position, he would want to rescue Naruto and kill Kawaki. Boruto denies wanting to kill Kawaki, instead hoping to slug it out and reconcile with him. Acknowledging he must remain a fugitive, Boruto agrees with Shikamaru's strategy to avoid pushing Kawaki into a corner. They decide not to expose Kawaki until the time is right. Elsewhere, Jura reads several books with Hidari by his side, marveling at how much he doesn't know. He finds that the more he learns, the more aware he becomes of his ignorance. Frustrated by the lack of answers in the books, Jura decides to visit Naruto himself. Ada observes Boruto's conversation with Mitsuki, flustered by Boruto's composed demeanor. Kawaki urges her to track Boruto using Mitsuki's location, brushing off Delta's scolding about his rudeness to Ada. Ada reports Mitsuki's position, 20 kilometers south of the main gate. Kawaki takes off immediately, followed by Delta, who Ada asks to look after him. Delta warns Kawaki she'll kill him if Ada loses interest, but Kawaki nonchalantly replies he'll leave once his goals are achieved. Boruto explains the self-aware god trees to Shikamaru, including the fate of those consumed by the claw grime. Shikamaru receives an incoming report from Kawaki and verifies with Ino that the connection is secure. Kawaki announces his pursuit of Boruto using Ada's intel. Shikamaru discreetly warns Boruto and advises Kawaki to wait for backup, but Kawaki dismisses the idea. Boruto prepares to move. As Kawaki and Delta near the location, Kawaki pauses, unable to sense Boruto, noting Boruto likely won't sense him until they're close. Delta remarks on his bad luck. Meanwhile, Mitsuki joins Ada and Demon, reflecting on his feelings toward Kawaki. Despite knowing his emotions are artificial, Mitsuki thanks Ada for allowing him to experience love. He admits he doesn't fully understand himself as an artificial human, but feels a need to assert himself to avoid losing sight of the sun, his anchor. Mitsuki wonders if he and Ada are similar, questioning if she loves Kawaki or the idea of being in love. Ada finds his musings dramatic and expresses a desire to talk with Boruto soon. A claw grime approaches Konoha, with Jura and Hidari leaping from it. Soon after, a report of 2 intruders arrives, one matching Sasuke's chakra signature. Shikamaru issues evacuation orders, while Sarada and Sumire also receive the alert.
If you're finding this story engaging, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to discuss the unfolding narrative and hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying the tales shared, don't forget to hit that like button. For more captivating stories like this, simply click on any of the links by my side, and together, let's dive into more immersive worlds. Your feedback and interaction make this journey all the more exciting.